Okay, let's get started. Hello everyone, my name is Dan Cauchy. I'm the Executive Director for Automotive Grade Linux. It's really my pleasure to welcome you here today. And let's start by some housekeeping. First of all, this event is subject to the Linux Foundation Code of Conduct. Everyone should feel welcome and included. If you see any issue or have any issue, please report it to any one of the Linux Foundation staff immediately. I want to start with some AGL stats. 75% of keynote speakers today were out after midnight last night, drinking some very, very good scotch. 50% of keynote speakers went on to have some cleansing beer afterwards. But what's really important is that 90% of the discussion was about AGL, automotive, open source, how to improve the industry. And this is why, getting together in person is so critical. And this is what we have missed. And so I really want to welcome you to our first AGL all-member meeting in person post-COVID. So really happy to be here. We don't have the numbers we used to have, but there's reasons for that. Many of our Japanese colleagues could not make it due to budgetary travel restrictions. Because of COVID, many of them have not allocated travel funding for the year, which starts April 1st. And so we fully expect that our next AMM, which will be in Japan, to have over 200 people as usual. Okay, so I want to thank, first of all, went too far, Aishin and Mercedes-Benz. Yesterday we had a board meeting and we have our annual election, and both companies were re-elected to the board of directors. So I want to thank the entire board of directors for their support. Without their support and their help in driving some of the AGL initiatives, we wouldn't be where we are today. So big thank you to the AGL Advisory Board. The past 3 years has been very challenging. The automotive industry was impacted, one of the most impacted industries. Production lines were impacted, supply chains were impacted, computer chip shortages were happening, which impacted supply chain, which impacted the automotive industry. And despite all that, I'm really proud to say that AGL is thriving. We've done really well during COVID. We've kept developing like we always do. We always, all of the AGL people work remotely to begin with, so this wasn't new for us. So it really didn't affect the day-to-day operations of AGL. In fact, we had really strong membership growth during the COVID period. Companies such as Ford, Amazon AWS, SoftBank, I'm sure you've heard of those companies, joined AGL. But also companies like Marelli, Red Hat, Yazaki, AVL, some of which are here today, and many others joined AGL during this very difficult period. So again, it's a testament to the strength of our organization. And we have 11 car manufacturers supporting the project. And if you count the number of vehicles that are produced by these manufacturers, it's about 50 to 60% of all vehicles worldwide. So that's a really good thing. AGL is the only organization that is addressing all of the functions in the vehicle. Of course, our initial solutions were infotainment because that was the biggest pain point for the car manufacturers. But in the past 7-8 years, we've introduced instrument cluster, heads-up display, telematics solutions, and we're also working on functional safety with another Linux Foundation project called ELISA. So if you'd like to learn more about that, you're welcome to come talk to me about that, or Walt, or any one of our team members. Ah, perfect. Interesting stat. This is media share of voice. So a big thank you to Emily for producing this chart. In the past, from 2021 to 2022, media mentions of AGL versus Android versus Covesa actually AGL has done quite well. We've increased 16% in terms of media coverage, and Android has actually gone down 21%. So why is this important? Well, we're just a tiny organization in terms of marketing budget compared to a giant like Google, yet publications are talking about us, and there's a lot of buzz around automotive grade Linux, and we're really proud to see this, and that it's actually going up in the industry. And another really cool chart, this was produced by IHS Markit. It shows the automotive OS market share. The orange line is AGL. The gray line at the top is actually a fork of Android. So what does that mean? It means like it's not really Android. It's companies that take Android, make a fork out of it, and then have to support it with their own engineers. They get no Google support. They don't get Google Maps. They don't get Google services. This is mostly used in China by Chinese manufacturers. And then Android Automotive is the green. So you can see that the market is really consolidating on two solutions. Eventually, it'll be Android and AGL. Generic Linux is going down, but that's because a lot of companies that were using Linux in general are replacing Linux with AGL's version of the OS. So that's the market trend. We recently attended CES, so for those of you that were there, thank you for joining us. It was just a fantastic show this year. It was about, I would say, maybe 75% of the traffic that normally goes to CES, which is not bad for post-COVID return. We had thousands of visitors to our booth. We had over 680 people that were, we scanned, so it was a very good event for us. And just to give you an idea, this is our booth. We had 3 demos. And the reason I'm showing you this is I'm hoping to entice you to participate in our next CES. We have kiosks that we make available to our members. We normally have room for 10 to 12 companies. So if you're interested in participating in next year's event, it's actually a very inexpensive way to participate in CES and be part of the AGL ecosystem. And we've already procured a really nice booth, and I'll show you that in a future slide here. And it's a really good way, like I said, to participate in the ecosystem. Okay, let's talk about software. As most of you know, we name our releases after fish, thanks to Walt Miner. And the point of this chart is not to show you a bunch of fish, it's to show you that since 2016, we've been releasing 2 releases a year, every single year. And this is the continuing roadmap, that's our plan. We released Nifty Needlefish back in August. And then we're announcing today that Optimistic Octopus, and that's a difficult one. Optimistic Octopus was released just 9 days ago. And as usual, you can find all of the details on this release, including release notes, on our website at this URL here. So please go have a look at that if you're interested in the latest release. Okay, let me talk about some of the software trends and how AGL is addressing them. So first, there's definitely a trend of powerful SOCs. And what does that mean? Well, it gives car manufacturers and tier ones an opportunity to consolidate the cockpit on a single processor. And AGL, we've been demonstrating this for years, actually, and we've done a lot of work on this. We have an expert group called the Virtualization Expert Group, standardizing VirtIO, and in fact, our next speaker, Mizuyama-san, will be talking about this in detail, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. But this is a trend that we're addressing, and we have been addressing in AGL for several years. And the idea is that we can run instrument clusters side by side with infotainment on the same processor. And in fact, the infotainment part can be Android, and the instrument cluster could be AGL. And that's no problem. And so this kind of consolidation is made possible, and I think is a very visionary thing for the future, and I think we're going to see it in cars in the near future, in fact. Another trend is the growing complexity of software and the scale of software. To give you an idea, this might be of interest to you, AGL infotainment is 111 million lines of code, and AGL instrument cluster is 83 million lines of code. That's a lot of code. And so there's a need to manage this code and manage the deployment of this code and standardize the deployment of this code in a more containerized type of way. So in other words, I like to call it it's almost like treating the car a bit more like a server in terms of the maintenance and pushing software updates. And this is a trend that we're addressing with a expert group called the Container and Service Mesh expert group. And then finally, the lines are blurring between embedded IT and cloud. And you know, this trend, again, means that we have an opportunity to, in the automotive industry, again, change the dynamics such that the vehicle is treated more like a standard server type of environment so that we can attract a whole generation of new engineers, because embedded engineers are very difficult to find. In fact, one of the biggest complaints I hear from car companies is they can't find good embedded engineers. They can't find engineers to work for their company. And so this trend, you know, would allow us to attract a different set of engineers that can do more IT level type of software development in a standardized, containerized environment. And so, in fact, we're announcing that we're actually merging. This is so, there's so many similarities in this. We're actually merging the Container and Service Mesh expert group and the Virtualization expert group into a single expert group. And the name is not decided yet. They will be voting on that and naming themselves in the near future. In terms of other AGL developments, for those that don't know, we have a reference hardware system architecture team, and that team has developed a sandwich board. Basically, there's a peripheral board and a controller board and a vehicle board, and the controller board contains the SOC, and the idea is that you can swap out the controller board with a new SOC, a new SOC. And currently we have a Renesas SOC, and our plan is to add a Qualcomm SOC, and that work is still ongoing. And we're working with Qualcomm and Panasonic on this. Why is this important? Because reference hardware is actually difficult to find and buy in the industry. If you've ever tried to buy a Qualcomm board, you'll see what we mean. So the idea is to make these available to the AGL community to be purchased and at an affordable price, and to be able to develop AGL on these boards. But we're also adding other options. AGL is being ported to AWS Graviton, which is a cloud-based environment, ARM64-based environment, and this would allow for development and testing of AGL application, and specifically testing is quite important because you can do this without real hardware. So a developer could be sitting at home, working in the cloud, and do AGL development and so on using AWS Graviton. Another key AGL development is that we've ported a lot of our reference applications and so on to Flutter. Flutter is a Qt alternative, basically, and this entire code base was contributed by Toyota. So basically, Toyota made an embedded automotive version of Flutter, and they contributed all that code to AGL, and so now we are the home of this code, and we're doing a lot of work on this. This is a really exciting area because we believe that potentially Flutter could be the future of the automotive UI and app development environment. And another key development is that we're working very closely in virtualization, but specifically VirtIO. This work is being led by Panasonic, and I'm not going to go into detail because Mr. Mizuyama will be speaking about this in the next talk. Okay, so let me talk about some of the upcoming events that we have. We would love to see you. So this week we have this AGL AMM Berlin. Next week, we will be at Embedded World, so we hope to see you there. We have AVL, Amazon, AWS, Igalia, and Panasonic will be displaying demos in our booth at Embedded World, so we hope to see you there. We're also glad to announce a new conference called Automotive Linux Summit Europe. So for many years now, we've had Automotive Linux Summit. It was always based in Japan. This year we will have two. So we will have ALS Japan and ALS Europe. For a start, this will be just a single-day conference, and it'll be a micro-conference inside Embedded OSS Summit, which is also new, that Linux Foundation recently announced. This will be at the end of June in Prague, so we hope to see you there. We're really targeting the people that are here and the automotive ecosystem from Europe to participate in this. We will have an all-member meeting in Japan in July. The exact date is not decided, but we believe it'll be the end of July, and it'll be at the Hilton Tokyo Shinjuku. So this is all being confirmed. We're signing the contracts now, so we hope to see you at this event as well. As I said, many of our Japanese colleagues could not travel this week, so really, I think this event will be very important for AGL and the ecosystem. We'll also be at OSS Europe. We're planning some kind of workshop. The details are not quite finalized yet. We're either going to have a workshop at Open Source Summit or nearby at maybe hosted at one of our members, Igalia. We still have to decide the details on this, so stay tuned for that. We'll also be at Automotive Software Conference and Expo. This is a new conference inside EdgeTech Japan. This is a big conference with 26,000 people that attend this normally. So we'll be at this conference as well with a booth. And so please, if you want to participate and join us, stay tuned for some more details on that. And also, we will have Automotive Linux Summit Japan, as I mentioned. This will be sometime in the fall. The exact dates have not been announced, but this will be co-located with Open Source Summit Japan. So again, stay tuned for details for that. And then finally, we'll end the year, or actually start the next year with CES. And we have already chosen the booth. And we are in the automotive technology area, right next to Mercedes-Benz, John Deere, Kia, Cariad, Hyundai, etc. So if your company wishes to participate in this, please stay tuned. We're going to have a CFP on our website, and you'll be able to submit a proposal to get a kiosk and show a demo inside the AGL booth. And trust me, this is a fantastic event to expose your company to the AGL ecosystem. There's literally thousands of people that come to the booth, and it's a great business development opportunity. So to summarize, I've included all of them in one chart so that you can take a photo if you wish. But yeah, these are all the events that we're going to be attending this year. So we love to see you at these events. Okay, so with that, I want to thank you again for joining us this week. This is like our reboot, our very first all-member meeting in person post-COVID, so we're really happy to be here. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you have a great 2 days and that you can have some meaningful discussions with the automotive AGL ecosystem. So thank you very much.